Is it a little bit of deja vu? What is happening to Ferrari? Have some people overcomplicated their cars? Are Mercedes overstating their issues? And can Aston Martin maintain the form that they had in the first race in Bahrain? And of course, we look at this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Very good evening. Let's go racing. It's a very good evening and welcome to the LGR F1 Show. I'm Sasha Martin, and of course we're at our magnificent studios right here at the bespoke Suzuki showroom at Menlyn Park Shopping Centre. Before we get into the world of Formula One, how would you like to win a Dakar experience? Okay, it's not the full Dakar, but what we'll do is we'll take you and put you into a Dakar car and you can go drive around with one of the fantastic drivers. All you have to do, answer that very simple question. Who won the last South African Grand Prix? Who won the last South African Grand Prix? You can send your answers on WhatsApp to 073 879 4498. How's that, eh? I actually got it right for a chance. You can win yourself a Dakar experience. I just want to let you know it is for people who live in the Johannesburg, Pretoria, Gauteng area of South Africa. If you live outside of those areas, of course, if you can make your way there, then of course you can take part as well. Get your answers through. Now, whereas in 2014 we had massive changes in Formula One, all of them were around the hybrid technology, the brand new engine. And unfortunately, for most of us, it deprived us of classic Formula One racing because of these engine regulations for the better part of 8 years. The regulations that were enforced in 2021 and into 2022, don't forget 2021, we were still going through quite a bit of COVID, shouldn't allow there to be such a gap between all of the teams. Red Bull were a class of their own in Bahrain. We saw that, and they were a class of their own in 2022 as well. The big question is, how did this happen? Of course, you can get in touch via Facebook, YouTube. We've got the WhatsApp line, which I've given to you as well, 073 879 4498. Has Adrian Newey found, I don't know, the golden egg in the world of Formula One? Or have teams overcomplicated their cars and their designs? Joining me is my great friend, multiple South African racing champion. He's raced all over the world. He's won all over the world as well. And it's great to have him on the show this evening. Gary Formato. Gary, how's it going, my friend?
Yeah, good, and you. Good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me along.
Always a pleasure. Before we go into all of the teams and overcomplicating and rules and regulations, let's go back to the Bahrain Grand Prix. Gary, is it fair to say that Max Verstappen is already one of the greatest?
Say that. And I would have probably said that a couple of years ago in any event. The fact he's now double world champion, open season with the result that certainly was a lot better than what they had last year. They looked like the team in the car to beat. And you know, I would say that Max he's a bit of a phenomenon, actually. I mean, if you just think of his background, I mean, his mom raced. She was, we know, was in Formula One. He comes from such a racing background. I mean, this is all this guy's really known his entire life. I mean, his dad's job from the age of 4, Max's go-karts, and that's what they did. So for him to have done anything less, or anything to have not been a professional, I don't think it would have been a good result for them. So they've just maximized on all of that, and then we're seeing just, what it's actually was. So combined with his talent and all the the support and everything else that went into it, I don't know, in a big hurry, I know we say these generational talents come along every 10 years, but Max, I think, is something special. And if it's up to me, I put my neck on the chopping block right now and say that if not the greatest one, see from Max.
Yeah, I tell you. Listen, you've got to love South African load shedding. That's why we're having a little couple of issues with the line, but hopefully it'll settle itself. I just want to bring up Max's records. Just in the last, I think, 12 or 15 races, and we actually have an idea of how dominant Max Verstappen has been. There we go. Those are his last 12 races. P7, P6 is the worst, and he's won all of the rest. Quite amazing. Gary, staying with Red Bull, I mean, Sergio Perez is impressive, but can he, and big question, would he be allowed to challenge Max Verstappen, if they run away with the season?
Yeah, look, the way I'm seeing it is that, this reminds me of like a scenario where when the car was very good, you had Rubens that was pretty close to Michael on a lot of occasions, and perhaps could even win a couple of Grand Prix. I don't think he's got, and he'd probably not like anybody to say it, but I don't think he's got what it takes to be, just from a talent point of view. And listen, and we're talking the fractions. We're not talking massive differences here. I mean, we're talking about the best in the world here. So the differences, but I just also think that Max has got the team around him. At the end of the day, you ask the question, will they let him? Would you let anybody up to your superstar driver that you could probably win another 3-4 world championships with if you could get the car? I don't think so, So at the end of the day, I think it's Max's deal.
Yeah, I hear you, but I suppose someone like Sergio Perez will always sit there and believe that he can win the championship. I agree with you. I don't really believe that that Red Bull would allow him to challenge unless something dramatic goes on, within the team. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Now, staying with Red Bull, McLaren could be looking to partner with Red Bull technology engines in 2026. We know that Red Bull are still with Honda in some kind of a way for the foreseeable future. McLaren, Mercedes, does it not maybe liken or hint to the idea that Mercedes are really going to put all of their eggs into Aston Martin's pocket?
Sasha, I lost you somewhere along the way there, but I think I've got the gist of what you were saying. Look, I mean, I think we'll chat about them just now, but I mean, a team that really on the way up. And, at the end of the day, for them to be beating, look how the whole operation works. It's not something that Mercedes are used to at all. One of their customers beating them. So, I don't know how that's all going to pan out, but, I think for sure in Formula One, you've got to hedge your bet. You've got to have another opportunity open for you. I'm sure that Zach Brown's maybe a little bit, or regretting having made such a hullabaloo about the budget, now that he's looking for changes from Red Bull. I mean, but you've got to have your bases covered.
Yeah, very much so. And also, if you even go a little bit further back, you go, maybe if they'd stuck with Honda, things could have been a little bit different for them. But that's for another day. Gary, let's talk Ferrari. All right, there's been so much written and said about them after the Bahrain Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is going to have a 10-place grid penalty because they're changing the electronic system in his car. All teams are only allowed 2 for the whole year, and he's already onto his third unit. It's all changed at Ferrari, and I mentioned in the last show, David Sanchez is gone. It looks like Laurent Mekies is on his way out. And Gary, this is what worries me. Charles Leclerc went straight to John Elkann who is the chairman of Stellantis Group, which owns Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Maserati, etc., he didn't go even to Fred Vasseur, and he didn't go to Benedetto Vigna. To me, this smacks of ego within the organization and a real communication issue.
Look, it's just not unusual for Ferrari, is it? I mean, I think all of us want Ferrari to be there. Formula last year was good in a sense that we saw some great battles with Ferrari and Red Bull. They really were at one stage the only team that even had a chance of having a go. At the moment, big changes there. Just if it's Binotto leaving, and listen, I don't think it was a bad change anyway. I think he threw away a lot of. Not sure, but you just don't feel that Ferrari have got all their ducks in a row. Listen, to even comment on it is actually so difficult. I think there's politics there that even make us nervous. So, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation because they're in a position where they can actually get the results. And you can also understand Leclerc's frustration. He doesn't really have any other options. He can't go to Red Bull. He's not going to go to Mercedes-Benz. He's kind of stuck. He's stuck with the situation of making one.
Yeah.
Frustration.
Listen, Gary, it seems unfortunately the gremlins have got into our internet, and we unfortunately you're breaking up. So I'm going to leave it there. We're going to try and get hold of you and see if we get a better line. But it's always good to chat to you, and we'll definitely chat to you very, very soon. But thanks for your time. Appreciate it, buddy.
Cool. Take it easy, guys.
Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, these gremlins come in, and it is a little bit of an issue for us. Staying with Ferrari. Fred Vasseur came out and says, I never saw a car able to match the pace of another one in quali and not be able in the race. It's a matter of setup and some choices on the car. It's not a matter of the concept at all. I'd like to just remind Fred Vasseur that his time at Alfa Romeo, sometimes they qualified exceptionally well, and in the race they didn't race very, very well. So I'm not entirely sure what he is going on about. But we'll talk about concept and cars in a short while. Ferrari seemed to have problems. And in my opinion, and I said it last year towards the latter part of the year, I do not believe that Benedetto Vigna, and it might be a very new name to you, but he is the CEO of Ferrari. I don't believe that he is the person. And I think he is also very responsible for Mattia Binotto's demise. Let's forget about strategy problems that they had last year. Somewhere along the line, I'm not entirely sure that this Benedetto Vigna fits into that organization. Ferrari's Achilles heel that we saw towards the middle and end of last year, we saw it in the first race this year in Bahrain, of course, is tire degradation. Will they be able to fix that problem? Is it just a car setup? I suppose this weekend we'll start getting some of the answers to those questions. Coming up, we look at Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Williams. And here is our question again. Use the WhatsApp line 073 879 4498. You can win yourself a Penta Dakar experiencing, meaning you go out with the drivers in a Dakar car, all prepared by Penta in April of this year. Who won the last South African Grand Prix? All right, welcome back. It is the LGR F1 Show with me, Sasha Martining. Unfortunately, we don't have Gary anymore because we just got some internet gremlins due to a little bit of load shedding, so I do apologize about that. Aston Martin, what a race they had. in Bahrain, and especially Fernando Alonso. Alonso goes from hero to villain, back to hero, back to villain, and at the moment, of course, he's hero. He drove a magnificent race in Bahrain, and besides the fact that Charles Leclerc had the issue, Leclerc most probably was very solid in third place. Wonderful for Aston Martin, and I really like the attitude of Fernando Alonso. I don't see any reason why we can't win races this year if they keep developing the car. As they say in the classic cliche, one swallow doesn't make a summer. But it's a fabulous start for Aston Martin. Great result for Fernando Alonso to get a podium as well in their first race. We must bear in mind, when Charles Leclerc's car broke down in the Bahrain Grand Prix, he was all of 26 seconds behind Max Verstappen. When Fernando Alonso crossed the line at the end of the Grand Prix in Bahrain, he was 40 seconds behind Max Verstappen. And it is rumored that Red Bull, both Max's car and both Sergio's car, were turned down for the last 10 or 12 laps of that race. Pretty frightening prospect. The big question, can Aston Martin maintain where they started, and of course the development? They've got key people in the right positions there now. They're building brand new infrastructure as well, and that's got nothing to do with the budget cap. So, you know, let's not put that there. Also, they do have Lance Stroll. Now, there are many people who still to this day believe that Lance Stroll is there because his dad's a billionaire and Lawrence Stroll owns the team, and that's the only reason. Lance Stroll is a fantastic racing driver. He's achieved a lot in Formula One, a lot more than many, many other drivers who many people rate as being better than himself. So at full fitness, I do believe we're going to see a very strong Lance Stroll, and I don't believe Fernando Alonso will have it all his own way. If you look last year as well, Aston wasn't a great car, but Lance was very much the measure of, let's say, a slightly subdued Sebastian Vettel. But he was very, very quick, and he was really, really on the pace as well. So I say don't underestimate Lance Stroll. Let's move on to Williams. I breathe beautifully because for the first time in a very, 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 very long time, we have a boss at Williams who is transparent and calling a spade a spade. James Vowles, highly respected, spent 20 years at Mercedes-Benz, has taken over the helm at Williams. We know that Williams is owned by a company called Dorlito Capital that bought out the Williams concern. What have they done since they have bought the Williams team? Nothing. I suppose a couple of pennies here and there. Nothing. They've done nothing. And James Vowles has come out and said, for the last 15 years, Williams has just survived. It's about time we get told exactly what is going. I'm going to leave that up on the screen. Just read it. Or should I read it to you? The team over the last 15 years has been through a tremendous amount of difficulty financially and otherwise, and it's survived through all of that. But it's just survival to other organizations that have had finance. And that's the luxury I had prior to joining. And as a result of that, you have these stark differences between where we are today and where we need to be in the future. Finish that last sentence. So the pathway is, to a certain extent, a number of years required to get some of the core facilities to the level required to compete at the front. That last paragraph is vital to the survival of Williams. In my opinion, I wish we had another Lawrence Stroll somewhere along the line, buy out Dorlito Capital, put an organization or a boss in there to work with James Vowles, who's got the passion for motor racing, because Williams is such a wonderful team. They don't deserve to have been through the last 15 years that they have been through. Alex Albon did score a point for them in the last Grand Prix. Vital point, because for those who maybe don't know, any point that you score as a constructor goes into the kitty of TV money. The more points you score, the more you get out of the kitty at the end of the year. That point, especially at the beginning of the season, is vital for Williams. So well done to Alex Albon. And I really, really hope that they are going to have better luck, and I hope James Viles manages to get Dolito Capital to ensure that the funding is there so he can get the right people in order to build that team into the great Williams that we all love and appreciate. Now, Mercedes. After the Grand Prix in Bahrain, a couple of hours after the Grand Prix, George Russell came out with a comment, okay? And I read it with disbelief when it came out. Red Bull have got this championship sewn up. I expect them to win every single race this season. That's my bet. If you have a driver that comes out with a comment like that after the first race, I've never read something so negative. And I wish Gary was here, because I'd ask him the question saying, if you were a team manager, how would you have reacted? I always just go back to Enzo Ferrari. And I can tell you, if Enzo Ferrari was alive and George Russell was in his team, and George Russell came out with a comment like that after the first race, he would have been fired on the spot. I cannot believe that Mercedes actually allowed George Russell to be so negative about the season after one race. And, you know, my estimation of George as a racing driver is wonderful, but as a person, unfortunately, it has gone out the window quite a bit. Lewis Hamilton was also very vocal, as was Toto Wolff. And incredible, it seems as though, well, this is a team that all of a sudden doesn't know how to lose in a sporting manner. They had an unbelievable run from 2014 up until the end of 20, and 2021, of course, can always come under discussion as well. But you have to take the good and the bad. And I really think that a lot of the members of the Mercedes organization, after watching the Bahrain Grand Prix and hearing the comments that came from Lewis Hamilton, who basically came out and said, well, I told them a whole lot of stuff and they didn't listen. Toto Wolff said, well, this concept is just rubbish. And George Russell coming out and saying, well, that's the championship sewn up. If I worked for Mercedes, I would be very, very deflated. And I'm sure in the last 8 or 9 days, there've been many discussions and repaired some of those communication issues that have come out of the mouths of the three major contributors to that team in terms of the performance. But I'm really disappointed in the sort of rhetoric that has come out of Mercedes. Is there, though, a possibility that Mercedes are overstating the problems that they have? Let's go back to the beginning of 2022, where Mercedes came out and really were on the back foot. Eventually, they came out, they won a race during the course of the year, and George Russell and Lewis Hamilton performed exceptionally well during the latter part of last year's season. Are they making out that the car is really a bucket of bolts, or are they playing a little bit of the reverse psychology game? Maybe I am being a little bit naive. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Mercedes. Whew. Coming up, I'm going to look at McLaren, Alpine, as well as Bernie Eccleston. Yeah, coming to you from our wonderful studio at the Suzuki studio in the Menlyn Park Shopping Centre. Just going through some of your comments. Thanks for sending it through. Angelo says, evening Sasha and everyone. Ferrari doing it the Italian way. Too much espresso. Evening Erika. Colin says, would be good to see Perez fight Max. It would be. Sergio Perez is good, but I think he's a pace horse for a Red Bull. That's from Erika. Lee Ryder, listening to us all the way from, is he in Arizona? Is he in, I think he is, yeah. Tough being a Ferrari sport in recent times. Lawrence says, looking forward to tonight's show. Hope you're enjoying it. The car needs a better power unit and better reliability issue, but Charles Leclerc has got what it takes to win. Turn down, not to hurt, maybe. Come on, Alonso. I love his attitude towards the possibilities of the team. Very, very cool. Russell probably told the team it's the whole Red Bull are faster than us, reverse psychology. It could well be. Yeah, so there are some of them. Also, lots of correct answers coming through on the WhatsApp line as well. So keep them coming through. Who won the last South African Grand Prix? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show, and of course also give away that Dakar experience with Penta Motor Group, where you have the chance to go as a passenger in one of these Dakar vehicles. Amazing. McLaren have issues. We know that before the season even started. At testing, they said, listen, we have got issues. We are going to try our best to try and sort it out as quickly as possible. Oscar Piastri, unfortunately, was the first driver out of the Grand Prix, and unfortunately didn't really show what he is capable of. But McLaren have probably two of the most exciting drivers on the grid. One is Lando Norris, the other one is Oscar Piastri. Now let's just look at some of the dynamics. Andrea Stella has said he expects Piastri to become one of the best drivers on the grid. His pedigree and his results lend itself to the fact that he could well attain that. But we have to look at two things. Lando Norris has signed a long-term contract with McLaren and is into his 5th year of Formula One. He's going to start getting frustrated. We know how fast this young kid is, and all of a sudden he has a car that more than likely is going to take at least half of the season to get up to some kind of speed. Piastri, on the other hand, well, I mean, this is his first season. He knows no better, and if the car's not that fantastic, well, he'll just deal with it and try go out there and beat his teammate. I anticipate and predict fireworks between Piastri and Norris, and somehow I don't think they're going to be on each other's Christmas list. Watch out for those two. Alpine. Wow, this is a team finished 4th in the championship last year. I expected really, really mega things from them in Bahrain. Yes, Pierre Gasly did eventually score a point, but what a fiasco they had with Esteban Ocon. I mean, there are lots of memes going around on the interwebs at the moment saying Ocon won't race at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix because he's still paying for his penalties in Bahrain. But Ocon had just a terrible day. Alpine had even a worse day to get so many issues incorrect during the course. He got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He got another penalty, and then he had another penalty on top of that. No, it was a little bit of a mess that happened with Esteban Ocon. I think eventually incurred something like 40 seconds of penalties. I genuinely expected Alpine to be better than they were. Gasly scored a few points. I just wonder, is this Renault not allowing Alpine to develop? Is there some kind of issue? Otmar's Nafhauer was very, very confident at the end of last season, coming into this new year with his new driver pairing. They're great drivers in Ocon and Gasly. I'm just a little bit concerned that they're not getting the kind of assistance from the mothership, and that is Renault. It's also been stated that after the first Grand Prix, the Renault engine is the slowest. So I think they've got some issues as well. Now, Bernard Charles Eccleston. I think he's 92, 93 years old. And maybe you can help me out in this as well. There is a brilliant documentary, apparently, and it's called Lucky. It is all about the life and story of Bernie Eccleston. The problem is I don't know where to find it or how to stream it. So maybe some tech wonderful people who are pretty good at finding these things can let me know on the WhatsApp line as well. I'm desperate to see it. I've read a lot about it, and I'd love to watch this documentary on Bernie Eccleston. It's also put together by the same people that put together the Schumacher documentary. There we go. The WhatsApp is on the screen, and so if you know how I can stream it, I would really, really appreciate any kind of assistance. Coming up, we look at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we look at Haas, we look at AlphaTauri, and we look at Alfa Romeo. All right, welcome back. Couple of more messages that have come through. Norris, I believe, is in the wrong car. Robin says, please add me to the WhatsApp group. I would clearly love to do that, Robin. You just got to send me what your number is, and then I can do that as well. Another one. Colin says, how's it, dude? I had the privilege of meeting Ayrton at Lanceria after the race when he was leaving. He signed my shirt and allowed us to view the inside of his HS125, which I'm assuming is his aeroplane. Yes. Colin says, I've watched that on Bernie. I'm sure Netflix. No, it's not on Netflix. After this, I will check. He was a cool dude. He is a cool dude still. And long may he live. I really do hope so. Okay, the Haas team. I battled with this team. I always have battled with this team. They've had some very good drivers. They've had some okay drivers in their team. My biggest concern is Haas, the Kardashians of Formula One. Is it all about Drive to Survive and, you know, how cool Günther Steiner is and I don't know how animated he is? Where is the substance to this team? This is what concerns me. Yes, they had some pretty good results last year, but if you look at all of the races, it wasn't that fantastic. It really wasn't. It's not good enough. They've got new sponsors. They're an American team. They've got Gene Haas behind them. And it seems as though they're more concentrated on their social media profile as opposed to racing. Hulkenberg had a wonderful qualifying in Bahrain. Magnussen didn't have a great qualifying in Bahrain. Hulkenberg unfortunately tapped his wing, and from there the car was pretty difficult to drive. Kevin Magnussen drove as well as he could, but landed up outside the points. These beginning races are essential for these minnow teams to try and get points. Alfa Romeo got points. Williams got points. No points for Haas. Are they going to be able to salvage something from 2023? As I've mentioned, they've announced a new sponsor. They got Hulkenberg and Magnussen, two very, very accomplished and, you know, they want veteran racing drivers, so they know how to race and they could scramble. But I just don't see Haas developing. I mean, I would firmly believe that if Haas was actually owned and run by Andretti, we'd have a different kind of perspective. So I'm getting bored of Günther Steiner and his animatics, I must be honest. I think they really come. Let's go out there and let's get into the top 5. Let's upset the apple cart along the way. You've got all of the Ferrari technology behind you, and you're based in Maranello as well. There's no reason why you shouldn't be a lot better than you are. Alfa Romeo, there we go. Valtteri Bottas, just an evergreen. Even with his peculiar Australian mullet haircut, but an evergreen. He knows how to race. Yes, he's won many Grand Prix, especially, well, all with Mercedes, and he's coming to Alfa Romeo and he's given a new lease of life. He is a much happier person. Alfa Romeo just need to give him a better and better car. So for him to have salvaged points over the Bahrain Grand Prix, I think was really good for him. I mentioned in the first show, I really do hope that Alfa Romeo Sauber do continue to develop this car as much as they can. My biggest concern is that Alfa Romeo are pulling out at the end of this year, and that means that, well, do they really want to go and develop a car for another manufacturer? It's a very, very tricky situation. Zhang Yu Guo also had a decent race, but a couple of issues unfortunately didn't allow him to progress further up the field. But I do think in the next couple of races, Alfa Romeo probably will be able to end up in the points. Long term, or for the rest of the season, I'm not entirely convinced. Then a team that also expected a lot more. We always call them the baby Red Bull team, but they're not. They're totally independent. They are AlphaTauri. They've got Nick de Vries. They've got Yuki Tsunoda. When I did the preview to the 2023 season, I was cautious about Yuki Tsunoda not having an ally in Pierre Gasly. Well, he dispelled all of that in Bahrain, went out there, drove like a demon. Yes, didn't score any points, but he trounced Nick de Vries. Nick de Vries, great racing driver. Yes, it is his first full season in Formula One. But you got a 20-year-old against a 28-year-old. There's 7-8 years difference in experience in different kinds of racing. And I think Yuki Tsunoda really trounced all over him. Maybe it was a setup issue, but I think Nick de Vries is going to have to find some form in order to match someone like Yuki Tsunoda, which is just fantastic to see as well. Now, a quick one. We are going to have some qualifying changes during 2023. It's only going to happen in 2 Grand Prix. The first one is Emilia Reggiano, which is the Imola circuit, which comes up in a month or so from now. And they're going to try a new solution. Number one, it is to try and eliminate wastage of tires. So the teams will be reduced from 13 sets of tires per weekend down to 11. And at this Grand Prix, and there'll be 2 of them this year, the first one at Imola, all of the teams will have 11 sets of tires. In Q1, all of them have to use the hard set of tires. In Q2, all of them have to use the medium set of tires. And in Q3, all of them have to use the soft compound tire. Is it going to make much of a difference? Well, unless you burn out a set of tires or have a small little off and you destroy a set of tires, it could have a little bit of a difference. I'm not entirely sure if it's the right way to go about trying to change the qualifying system, but we'll have to wait and see. You know, in my opinion, if you want to make the racing more spectacular and forget about qualifying, make DRS available from lap 1. Why not? These are all racing drivers. They know how to race close to each other. Make DRS available from lap 1. Start, first DRS zone, open and go. I think I would rather go with that in any case. Now, sure. Okay, this weekend we are in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. There are changes to the track at Jeddah this weekend. One of the major changes, and I think it's an important change, is the change to the DRS zone, zone number 3. If you remember last year and even the year before, it is one of those zones where you come out of the corner and you sort of slow down and you allow your opponent to get in front of you, and then you cross the line and you pick up the DRS. So they're changing where that DRS line is going to be, and I think it's better for the racing. Otherwise you have this sort of mockery of overtakes. So I'm glad to see that that is going to change. And then of course we have a whole set of changes to various curbs, just out of the safety. This is an incredibly fast street circuit, and some drivers have said that it is rather dangerous. There on your screen, speeds have been reduced by around 50 kilometers an hour at turns 22 and 23 by adjusting fence placements, adding a beveled curb. Similar curves have been added to 4, 8, 10, 11, 17 and 23, while new rumble lines will deter drivers from running wide and will slow them. The chicane is gone. It'll be flat out all the way around, and this will undoubtedly help some overtaking as well. It's going to be a fantastic Grand Prix. If you remember last year's race, Perez got out into the lead. Then we had the safety car. He sort of lost the lead. Leclerc was right at the top. Verstappen was out there. And then, of course, the two of them, Verstappen and Leclerc, played with that DRS in zone 3. Eventually, Verstappen got the jump on Charles Leclerc. And it was just, I think it was less than a second that separated. We hope that we will see something like that this weekend. But after what we saw in Bahrain, have Red Bull really got a jump on everybody else? Unexpectedly, it is going to be dry during the course of this weekend. It is going to be rather dusty as well. Tire degradation shouldn't be as severe as Bahrain, but I think Ferrari are still going to have a couple of issues that they're going to have to iron out, whether it's in their setup, which might compromise their straight line speed. It's something they have to work on, and they have to find solutions if they want to fight against Red Bull. Right in the beginning of the show, I said deja vu. I really hope it's not something like we saw in from 2014. There are the compounds from Pirelli, the second in the range of each of the compounds, C2, C3 and C4. Last year the soft tire wasn't really used during the race because of tire degradation, whereas Bahrain, we saw the soft tire, although it was the C3 compound that we had last weekend or 2 weekends ago. So when can we watch the Grand Prix? We're all getting excited. We've had the first race. We're going, please, can Aston Martin do what they did? Can Ferrari find something? Will Mercedes come with a better package? And there we go. The race, first pre-practice tomorrow, 3:30 until 4:30. 7 until 8 o'clock in the evening is practice 2. Practice 3 is 3:30 until 4:30 on Saturday, qualifying 7 through until 8. And the race on Sunday, this is all South African times, that will be at 7 p.m. Yeah. I loved last year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, so I'm really looking forward to this one as well. And I'm hoping that whatever issues all of the teams besides Red Bull had in Bahrain, that most of them have been fixed up for this Grand Prix. Early on during the show, we asked the question for you to win a chance to go and spend a day with the Penta experience and go and enjoy a Dakar car. Who won the last South African Grand Prix? Now, keep those entries coming in because I have to go through. There are tons and tons of answers that have come through. Actually, we're going to cut it off now because I've got to give you the answer, I suppose. So there we go. There we go. We're at 7:45. And that is going to be the last WhatsApp that I will look at. The answer was Alain Prost. He won the last South African Grand Prix. 1993, I was there. And just some significance about that Grand Prix. It happened on this day, the 15th of March, back in 1993. Only 5 cars finished at the end. And that was because of also torrential rain right at the end of the Grand Prix. And I remember Derek Warwick could have scored points, and he spun out in the last lap. Wow, what a pity. I will go through all of these and find somebody who lives in the Gauteng area of South Africa, and you will go and enjoy your time with the Penta Group and, of course, enjoy your Dakar experience. I will announce it on the WhatsApp as well as on my social media pages as well. Can't wait for the Grand Prix this weekend. Make sure you check your schedules, but I think it's going to be nice and easy. Pity that we couldn't keep Gary on for more of the show, but hopefully we won't have these technical gremlins in the future. Always wonderful to be in our new home right here at the Suzuki Bespoke Showroom in the Menlyn Park Shopping Centre. And of course, the show brought to you proudly by Suzuki and of course the Penta Motor Group. As always, huge thanks to my team of Henk and Fritz for putting everything together and also dealing with all of the gremlins as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Let's go racing.